Welcome to Panlingual Translator, a website where you can automatically translate into languages that aren't supported elsewhere. Using bilingual dictionaries to look up your words and phrases, we give you feedback and control so you can be confident that every word is translated with the meaning you intend. Since dictionaries are simple, we could potentially support all the languages of the world, unlike other approaches which require a lot of pre-translated data to work. At the same time, this means that we trade off fluent translations in a few top languages to gain non-grammatical but adequate translations for all languages. We think word-for-word translations are enough to convey our meaning, since we can usually communicate in broken English when traveling abroad. Keep this in mind as you use Panlingual Translator. Write your message as if you were speaking to a foreigner who understands very little of your language. This usually means that you use simple words or phrases in short sentences that aren't grammatical, and if you're physically present, lots of body language. So without further ado, let's begin a tour of the system. We designed the Panlingual Translator interaction to be like communicating with a person who understands enough of your language and your target language to act as a very basic interpreter. Think of using Panlingual Translator like speaking and listening to someone who is able to quickly look up your words in a translation dictionary to understand what you mean in their language. When you first use Panlingual Translator, you'll see tips like this reminder to compose your message as if you were writing to someone who speaks broken English. You can close this tip, it won't show up next time, or choose not to see any tips ever again by clicking here. You can see a sample message by clicking here. If, for example, I wanted to book a hotel room for a trip to Indonesia, I might write the following message. We want a room for 2 persons, we will arrive on April 14th, we will stay for 3 nights, etc. Now, if I tried to communicate this message to a non-English speaker, they probably wouldn't understand me. It requires a moderate level of proficiency in English. Likewise, if you give this message to Panlingual Translator, which looks up each word in its dictionary, it may find most of your words, but will probably produce a very difficult to understand translation. Let's go ahead and try translating our hotel booking message, even though we know it may be too complicated to translate well. After Panlingual Translator has looked up your words in its dictionary, you'll see 3 panels. This is your original message, which you can freely edit and retranslate. This is a detailed view of your message. The bold text is your word, and beneath it is a back translation. Panlingual Translator chose what it thought was a good translation of your word and translated that back into your language. This way you can tell if it mistranslated your meaning or if it got it right. For example, you can tell want is probably translated correctly because its most likely back translation is wish. On the other hand, for is clearly wrong. The back translation is because, which is not the sense of for that we meant. What can you do when your translation is wrong? Let's click on this word and find out. In this drop-down you can see translations of your word, the most likely back translation, and the second most likely back translation. We show these two because having 2 gives you a better idea of the meanings associated with the translation. Since we use for as in for 2 people, we can look through these back translations to find the one that best conveys our meaning. Unfortunately, none of them indicate our intended use of the word. In general, words like for, which only serve a grammatical purpose, are hard to translate word for word into various languages, so it's usually better to avoid them. Panlingual Translator highlights words it thinks might be problematic in yellow. If you liked one of the translations, you can click on it to fix your translation output. Since none of the translations communicate our meaning in this case, we can try another word, reword the original message, pass the word through without translating it, or remove it from our message. Let's select the reword option and make our message more like something we would say to a non-English speaker. Our cursor moved back to this panel and highlighted the word for so we can easily reword our sentence. Let's change the whole thing. These short, simple phrases usually have a better chance of correctly conveying our meaning when translated word for word into any language. We can also be confident it translated proper senses of our words because the back translations confirm our meaning. Words highlighted in red, like person, cannot be translated into your target language. By default, these words are passed through untranslated. If we click on this word, we'll see some alternatives that can be translated. If we click on a suggestion like person, all of the panels are updated with our choice. We can also try another word by typing it here and pressing enter. Let's try people. The drop-down stays open so you can easily experiment with various words. After going through the back translation panel and making changes to accommodate Panlingual Translator's capabilities, we might end up with a message like this one. You can see that we don't have any yellow tokens warning us about words that are probably not translated well. We also don't have any red tokens indicating untranslatable words, and looking at the back translations seems to indicate our meaning is translated adequately. Once we're satisfied with our translation, we can copy the output here and use it wherever we want. That concludes our tour of the Panlingual Translator. If you have any questions, ideas, or bugs to point out, please contact us by clicking on this button and giving us your feedback. Thanks for watching.